We have already seen a significant effort by Moscow to make false claims about Europe, Ukraine, and the United States in an effort to excuse Russia's behavior and potentially create a pretext for Russia to further invade Ukraine. No one should be surprised if Russia spreads disinformation about commitments that have not been made, or if Moscow goes even further and instigates something as a pretext for further destabilizing activity. As you heard from the deputy this morning, we urge everyone not to fall for Moscow's continuing disinformation. But the other point is that dialogue and diplomacy are important, but we also need to see progress. And progress can only take place meaningfully in the context of de-escalation. De-escalation is not something we have seen yet. And in fact, we've all seen reports of exercises and live fire drills that seem to be moving in the other direction.
This was not an easy discussion, but that is exactly why this meeting was so important. We had a very serious and direct exchange on the situation in and around Ukraine and the implications for European security. There are significant differences between NATO allies and Russia on these issues. Our differences will not be easy to bridge, but it is a positive sign that all NATO allies and Russia sat down around the same table and engaged on substantive topics. Russia raised the proposals that they published in December aimed at addressing their security concerns. These include demands to stop admitting any new members to NATO and to withdraw forces from Eastern allies. Allies on their side reaffirmed NATO's open door policy and the right for each nation to choose its own security arrangements. Allies made clear that they will not renounce their ability to protect and defend each other, including with presence of troops in the eastern part of the alliance. NATO is a defensive alliance. We have never forced or coerced any nation into our alliance. So this idea that, for instance, NATO enlargement is aggressive, absolutely not true.
Во главу угла натовской политики и военного строительства ставится задача сдерживания России. Под это выделяются колоссальные ресурсы. Не скрывается, что это главное предназначение Альянса. И сам по себе этот факт разрушающий действует на любые попытки выстроить общеевропейскую безопасность на иных принципах. Мы сегодня констатировали, что состоялся очень откровенный разговор, об этом и говорил Jens Stoltenberg. Он был трудным, но глубоким, откровенным. И это уже хорошо, с учетом той остроты ситуации, которая сложилась в сфере европейской безопасности. И еще раз подчеркну, мы сделали первый шаг, мы изложили на бумаге, мы опубликовали наше видение, как мы видим движение вперед в правильном направлении. И сегодня мы призвали наших партнеров к тому, чтобы и они тоже изложили на бумаге свои представления, в каком направлении двигаться. И тогда станет понятно, какие инструменты, в том числе переговорные форматы, могут быть востребованы для того, чтобы обеспечить движение к этой цели. Российско-американский трек, он является центральным, это вполне понятно. Ядерная держава, несущая ответственность, особую ответственность за поддержание глобальной стабильности и безопасности, плюс историческая роль США и, конечно, во многом от тех пониманий, которые будут достигнуты между Россией и США, будет во многом зависеть и степень прогресса или возможности прогресса на других треках.
We have made it clear, and we told the Russians directly again today, that if Russia further invades Ukraine, there will be significant costs and consequences well beyond what they faced in 2014. We remain ready to continue to engage with Russia. The heavy pace of bilateral and multilateral engagements this week demonstrates that the United States and our allies and partners are not dragging our feet. It is Russia that has to make a stark choice: de-escalation and diplomacy, or confrontation and consequences. We expect, and had expected, that the Russian delegations at the SSD, here at the NATO-Russia Council, and tomorrow at the OSCE will have to report back to President Putin, who we all hope will choose peace and security. They are a powerful country. The fact that they feel threatened by Ukraine, a smaller and still developing democracy, is hard to understand, quite frankly. Why they need 100,000 troops on the border, which they say are not for invasion but are for exercising, when live fire exercises are reported this morning. What is this about? Is this about invasion? Is this about intimidation? Is this about trying to be subversive? I don't know. But it is not conducive to getting to diplomatic solutions. So Russia has a choice to make. There was no commitment to de-escalate, nor was there a statement that there would not be. I think one of the things that Russia has done, which it probably did not expect, it has brought all of Europe, NATO and non-NATO allies alike, together to share the same set of principles, the same ambition, the same hopes, and the same commitment to diplomacy. What I think is very important, and which I think Russia heard loudly and clearly from all allies today, is it's very hard to have dialogue, to have diplomacy that is conducive to success when, in fact, you have 100,000 troops, live fire exercises, propaganda, disinformation, other efforts to subvert that environment makes it quite difficult. So if Russia wants to reach success through diplomacy, and I certainly hope they do, because the consequences for them will be quite severe if they don't, then they should de-escalate.
Many of the things that they put forward are things that we have heard a number of times before. We don't agree with their interpretation of events, and we are certainly not going to subscribe to any rewriting of history. But the fact they were in the room and discussing is a small step in the right direction. In itself, it is only the beginning of a process, which is why the Secretary General put forward his proposals for further meetings. We strongly encourage them to engage in this process. We want them to de-escalate. We want them to change their posture towards Ukraine and other neighbouring states and actually get back to a much more productive diplomatic relationship with NATO.